Hey everybody, welcome back. You are on Saturday Night Light, where SDAs are invited to call in at 910-445-0062. The format of the show is is primarily for SDAs to call in to contend for whatever they might like to contend for. So if you want to sell me the Sabbath, sell me the spirit of prophecy, or sell me some Levitical food laws, you'd want to call in at 910-445-0062. I noticed that I'm not getting a lot of activity on that number. The only phone call that I've received so far is from a supporter or somebody, commending me or thanking me for doing this. And I'm really struggling with what to do with this channel moving forward, whether to continue with a similar format, whether to return to simply producing videos that are more technical arguments with some ability to do it at my leisure. I happen to live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where it is beautiful, where I have a nice motorcycle that I could be enjoying, could be out socializing, and so it's a bit of a burden to be here at 8 p.m. on Saturday nights, and I will confess that I've been struggling with that decision a little bit. It seems to me like my life was deeply affected by the doctrines and the sort of values or lack of values that it brings out in people. I think it kept me away from the biblical Jesus for a long time. And I'm asking myself, why am I, is it worth it or is it necessary to torture myself? Like, why am I subjecting myself to, more conflict with people that I don't really like or trust or respect? That's just the honest truth, is that I think there's no shortage of examples of when the Seventh-day Adventist Church has lied, has concealed information that would be damaging, has viciously attacked people in a very personal way whenever their doctrines are threatened. And I just I don't accept those things as biblical. I don't accept those things as loving. I don't accept those things as admirable. So I'm just asking myself, why do I want to continue to get down in the mud with these pigs? And I'm, am I being bombastic? Yeah, but I'm just trying to use colorful language to explain how I feel. So it would mean a lot to me if people would tell me that they think this has some value, not because I'm especially brilliant or anything like that, but because it is an ongoing shot over the bow. It is an ongoing offer for SDAs to do what they are supposed to do, as far as vindicating the character of God. They should be comfortable and qualified to tell me where I've gone wrong if they are legitimate. I guess that's a random chance. Hey buddy, good to see you. Kawasaki Vulcan Nomad Rider. Okay, awesome. I'm going to confess I don't know precisely what that is. I have been admiring some Harleys and some Indians recently. I'm kind of a bigger guy. I'm about 6 feet tall, about 265 pounds. And I don't know, at the age of 47, I feel like something like that might suit me. My experiences started last July when I rented a 3-wheel vehicle called I think it's the Polaris Slingshot, which is, it's obviously more of a car-like stance, but I just had a a wonderful time with it. Went out on a date and had a wonderful time. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. But just really had a lot of fun, and I felt like, man, I got to do something to change the trajectory of my life and seize the time that I have left, because again, at age 47, I don't have all the time in the world. And I think that when I was younger, well, maybe everybody does, but I think I put off a lot of things thinking I could get to it later, or there would be time to that I had time to burn. And I don't necessarily feel that way anymore as I start to get my gray hairs. So what happened is I enjoyed this Polaris slingshot so much that I drove to a local dealership, which is called Redline. And, I had always kind of been interested in the Can-Am Rikers, the 3-wheel bikes, and the Can-Am Spyders. And so I drove that rental Polaris slingshot to that dealership. And, within a couple days, I'd made a deal on a Riker. So I've got a Riker that I really love. It's got a tinted windscreen. It's got some JBL speakers. It's got a custom saddle with some stuff on it. And I just love riding it. I mean, it's just a thrill. It's just a thrill every time. Cruising up and down Ocean Boulevard, seeing the coastline, seeing the people out, going to ride, theme park stuff, basically playing amusement rides, and games, carnival games type stuff. So it's just, it's a lot of fun for me to be outdoors on that thing. So I'm going to ask for some prayer for a number of things, and that is prayers for what to do with this channel, whether I should make it more of a SDA support group, whether I should keep doing what I'm doing, if I should keep doing what I'm doing, but maybe at a different time of day where it wouldn't necessarily impact my social life or change my social options. So yeah, prayers about what to do with the channel and potentially other channels that are not religious in nature. And then, just prayers for stuff in my personal life that I'm struggling with. I'm going to share some stuff that is sort of personal, hoping that it will be cathartic somehow. If anybody wants to interrupt by calling 910-445-0062, you're welcome to, and we can get back to business. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to get up and get a cup of coffee from my Keurig machine. It's already done. I just got to run across the room to grab it. I didn't realize how late we were getting, so I started the video before the coffee finished. Okay, so as I was saying, when I was discussing, motorcycles and stuff like that, I rented a Polaris slingshot, and I invited a young lady that I'd come in contact with just out in everyday life doing business, and she happened to shoot. I'm not going to share every detail, but I'm going to share some stuff that's kind of heavy. Anyway, met this young lady, had traded a few messages, traded a few phone calls, and never really seemed to be able to get together to actually plan a date or whatever. Just wasn't coming together the way that I hoped to. So when I rented this car, I thought, this would be a fun way to spend some time, and so I sent her sort of a casual message. I said, hey, I rented this car for the next couple days, let me know if you'd like to go for a ride. And, so she responded, and we spent some time together, cruising around, went out to eat, had a great time. And I really, really enjoyed her company. She's about 30 years old, so a little bit younger than me. She is a Christian, but maybe not a seasoned Christian, or she calls herself a baby Christian, but clearly had a passion for God's word, and a thirst for learning. And I was really impressed with her, really attracted to her, and so that's all nice, that's all good. Following that, tried a few more times in various ways to get together with her. Traded a few text messages here and there, but again, communication was just sort of on again, off again. And I sort of understood, even though it wasn't really discussed in great detail, that she had been, starting to date somebody else, or seeing somebody else, and that that wasn't necessarily a real serious relationship yet. But I understood that I was, competing, if you will. So I have dated a very little bit of dating, but I've dated some other people, and some stuff seemed promising, but never really went too far. And the last woman that I was dealing with, I was really praying. There was some difficulty with communication, some just some tension with our communication styles. And I felt like when I would ask her a question, it could be an innocent question, but she'd be kind of defensive. I could offer to help somehow, and I would feel sort of, my help would be rejected in a way that made me feel kind of like silly or ashamed for thinking I could help. And so just a lot of stuff that was awkward, even though we were trying to treat each other well, we're attracted to each other, all that fun stuff. But I was really praying, like, God, please help me to figure out, like, if this is not the right person for me, please make it super clear, and just get them away from me. And I'd like you to bring somebody into my life. I've been single for a while, and it's difficult sometimes, but it was funny because my very next conversation with that person was just explosive and explosively negative. So it seemed like a pretty clear message that I wasn't supposed to be with that person. And I was grateful that I felt like it was pretty clear. I'm going to repeat. The phone number here is 910-445-0062. Asking people to pray for me regarding the format of the show. And, just to be more specific, should I keep doing this? Does it serve any sort of purpose? Should I make it more of a SDA support group, or former SDA support group? Should I do it at some other time of day that doesn't affect my, personal life the same way? So anyway, this woman that I was dealing with, really, really taken out of the way, because, the last phone conversation that I had with her was just, decidedly negative, like, just a clear lack of respect or concern for my feelings. So, not my favorite, way to reach a conclusion, but I reached a conclusion there. And the next thing you know, this young lady starts calling me, that I had that, promising date with, that I was really into her, and I was really kind of, disappointed that it didn't go somewhere more, and was still kind of holding out hope that, maybe somehow, some way, someday that it could. So anyhow, I start connecting with this girl again, and I'm like, oh my God, this is such a blessing, like, that this girl is calling me, like, right after I'm feeling kind of down in the dumps about this previous relationship, if you want to call it that. And so, really happy to hear from her. Got together with her ultimately for dinner, but she told me some things that blew my mind and kind of disappointed me. And so she told me that the guy that she had been seeing at the same time that she met me was happened to be a guy from Jamaica. and that he was selling drugs, and that he wanted to marry her to try to obtain or secure his citizenship. And I understand those things. I understand that people want a better life, and I can't say that I've never broken a rule trying to get ahead, but that was just really a shocker. So this woman that I'm kind of halfway fixated on is now married to a drug dealer as they try to get citizenship for him. She's telling me that it's not going well, that they're sleeping in separate bedrooms, that he hits her and stuff like that, and starts talking to me about her desire to get a divorce and how she made a mistake and all that type of stuff. And that's messy. Pardon me a second here. That's messy, but I have some feelings for this young lady. Not just because she's attractive, but I'll give you some detail. I would talk to her about scriptural things as I'm trying to hear her out and offer her some sort of moral support or whatever, and send some scriptural passages that seem relevant, along with a little bit of commentary of my own, just to try to explain what what impacted me about the passage or what have you. And what she started to send back is that she was literally, like, virtually every word I said was being like put in her journal with like notes and stuff. So she's sending me like pictures of her journal with like everything that I had texted the previous day. She's sending me voice memos with scriptural stuff in it, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This girl is amazing. So but like I said, the situation is messy. I think there would be a lot of biblical reasons for her to stay married. I think there'd be some legitimate biblical reasons for her to separate and get divorced. It's hard for me to imagine that a loving father orchestrated this and would have her basically be an accomplice with a immigration crime in order to get some advantage, which again, I understand the human desire for safety and security and to have a better life, but I don't know that God would bring her together with a drug dealer that's just mission oriented on getting his citizenship. I feel like she was just the nicest, most gullible person available at the time, and so that's why he married her. So we're talking about the pros and cons of her situation, separating, ways to separate. And I told her, if you don't tell anybody where you're going and you're serious about this, like, she's sending me photos of her like appointments with divorce attorneys and stuff like that. I said, if you need a safe place to be, don't tell anybody where you're going. You can come and stay in my spare bedroom. And, I wouldn't charge you anything for a couple months, because she feels like she has to, pay her half of the lease with this guy for the next couple months, which I understand. That's a, admirable thing to do, honorable thing to do, maybe. But, basically it was agreed that she would start, paying me rent after her lease ended or whatever. So, next thing we're having some serious conversations about the implications of her choices and things that are likely to happen next. And I'm noticing that she's kind of telling him, maybe telling him too much about what she's thinking and planning. And I said, I think that he's going to, if being mean and, trying to threaten you, which has been one method of trying to make you stay, just, making her feel fear of the legal consequences of legal or other consequences of leaving. If that doesn't work, he'll try being, very sweet. Um, he'll probably try to get you pregnant on purpose because that would make it, 10 times harder for you to get away. And it just, from everything I was hearing, it seems to just be a game. He understands the game board and he understands the strategies that he has to employ to get his citizenship. So, I'm giving her the best advice I can. I'm trying to be objective. I'm not trying to just, drag this woman into my bed. But it seems like, and we also talked about, I mentioned that they were sleeping in separate bedrooms and not having sex supposedly, but but that being sweet might be a fresh tactic if the threatening and violent behavior wasn't working. And so recently she's telling me that she's pregnant, or she thinks she might be pregnant, and that that she really cares about this guy because how now he's being sweet. And it's disappointing. Is disappointing. I've gone through a lot of hardships myself. I tried to get married when I was very young, and I think that the girl's parents really wanted her to finish school and to be with somebody older. So that's what happened, and that was kind of a big heartbreak. I had a child with this woman, so a lot of obligations to my daughter, to pay child support, and to try to be a better man than my father was, in regard to how he treated my mother. And it's something that can be painful and can be lonely. It's one thing to be like kind of rejected by the person that you love, but it's another thing to be rejected by the person that you love and then kind of mistreated by them and then have financial obligations to them. It's difficult. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time, and so now having a child and having these obligations as a young man, I'm even less eligible to find my next partner, if you will. Tried to be super careful moving forward. Stayed single for several years. Not that I didn't date or have a girlfriend here and there, but ended up getting married when I was in the Army. Married a woman that, I met her at church. She had a college degree. She had a house. She was a school teacher. And maybe, and I was attracted to her, and we'd spent, a fair amount of time together. But, maybe I made a mistake of thinking her resume made sense. Like it seemed like on paper, like, oh, this person could be a smart match for me. They're a reasonable, responsible, God-fearing person. So it could, we could be partners. That lasted only a couple of months tops. The young lady insisted that she wanted a divorce or an annulment. I came to find out that she had like a pattern of getting married and divorced repeatedly, like, at least 3 times before. And she was a young woman, maybe 30. I think I was 27. She was 30, something like that. So anyhow, told her that I loved her, wanted to work on the relationship, and didn't necessarily want a divorce, but she was insisting, and I felt like the most loving thing that I could do and the most scriptural thing that I could do was to, leave peaceably. I didn't try to get any, financial benefit from her. I didn't try to, sue for half the house or demand spousal support or anything like that. She was probably making more money than me at the time. But I guess what I'm describing here is, even when I was young, I'm somebody that wanted to have a partner and have a quality relationship and be in a marriage that was God honoring. And it just it hasn't really happened for me. And it just seems very ironic to me because I know plenty of people that were party animals and wild men and wild women, back in the day, and they've probably been married for 10, 15, 20 years at this point. And I'm not, and that's it's confusing. There's advantages to being single, obviously. I don't have to negotiate with anybody when I want some pizza or when I want a hamburger. I don't have to negotiate about where we're gonna go or when we're gonna go or are you ready yet? But there are times when I would like some companionship. Tried to meet people in church, and the last church I was going to, they even had a singles group, but frankly, most of the women were in their 50s plus and just not really appealing to me, even though we had good friendships. I'm going to say again, the phone number, if any SDAs want to call in, phone number is 910-445-0062. And so I'm not sure if I'm off track or on track or whatever, but I want to mention something that I think is interesting, and that is that SDAs, if I understand correctly, and they're welcome to file their complaint. They believe that essentially that they can stop sinning. And Ellen White said that it's not that they can't avoid sin or stop sinning. It's that they won't. And I think that is a fantasy. I'm going to tell you that as I think about serving in the Army, as I think about working as a prison guard for 10 years, as I think about being in other dangerous lines of work, working on cell phone towers, trying to make my way in life so that I would be qualified to have a family. It's hard to hear that a 24-year-old Jamaican guy took the most qualified woman in my orbit. And so again, just this young lady happens to be 30 years old. This guy that she married, for immigration purposes, is 24 years old. And, I can say that I resent, I can say that I really resent, all of the work that I've done to try to, prepare myself to be, a husband and a father, and the fact that, all those dreams have been dashed or at least delayed. And, so I can relate to David. You may recall that David saw a young woman that he wanted, and he kind of orchestrated some events to bring about the end of her husband. I'm not saying that I'm planning to do anything like that. I'm not. But I certainly have felt that way in my heart, right? I've certainly hated another man in my heart. And so, I think this is why we are told to take refuge in Christ, not because Christ can make us sinless in our mortal flesh and never have these feelings. Think about the simplicity of going to church on Saturday. It's such a simple ceremony. Nobody's tortured over that. Nobody's tormented over that. Nobody's sick in their heart over going to church on Saturday or Sunday. It's not a moral issue, but where sin does exist is in our hearts and minds and in our flesh at times. And so something that I'm struggling with is just kind of frankly feeling kind of heartbroken, feeling kind of crushed in my spirit, if you will. But that makes me want to read a scriptural passage, if I can find it, because I think it is relevant maybe. This is from Psalm 34. And if I recall correctly, it starts at verse 18 where I wanted to read. It says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. He keeps all his bones, not one of them will be broken. Affliction will slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems the life of his servants. None of those who take refuge in him will be condemned." So that's a question that I have for SDAs is, can you take refuge in Christ? Can you hide your face in his collar and cry to a loving Father, or are you just trying to impress God that you can compete with him? You can compete with Christ by being, virtually as good as Christ, and you're gonna get so good that you won't even need a mediator like him anymore. I don't know. I don't get it. I think Seventh-day Adventism is focused on a lot of ridiculous first world problems. They think that their diet somehow is a moral issue. What about Lazarus? Did Lazarus have the luxury of choosing, organic produce? Like, was that one of his problems? But where is Lazarus? Lazarus has been comforted. The number again, if anybody wants to call in to defend Seventh-day Adventism, to sell me the Sabbath, to talk about Levitical food laws, anything like that. They want to complain about my comments, complain about my videos. They're welcome to call me at 910-445-0062. But when you call, I'm going to ask you if you still struggle with sin. And if you do still struggle with sin, then what exactly are you guys promising? Like, what exactly does Seventh-day Adventism do for you if you still struggle with sin? If you can't act right, if you can't perfect yourself, like how many times are you going to go through the cycle of being baptized again or trying again, like hoping to meet the mark? Nobody's meeting the mark. People are getting closer to the mark, more Christ-like, a little bit less evil, but our hearts are sinful and deceptive at times. And we have a solution for that already in Christianity, and that is that God will forgive our sins and that our iniquities will not be remembered, and that we'll be comforted in a body that is not subject to sin and pain. If you haven't been verbally abused, if you haven't been threatened with lawsuits, if you haven't been falsely accused of a crime, like maybe you don't know that it does cause hate to at least pass through your heart and mind. So I don't know. I think the Seventh-day Adventist gospel, if you will, is just kind of a train wreck, kind of a scam, kind of a check that you can't cash. I want to thank everybody that's here, anybody that's stopping by. Thank you for your comments. Try to read some comments here. Thea says, well, first of all, Random Chance says, thanks for reading that. Thanks for praying for you. Yeah, thank you. Just out of curiosity, how old were you when you got married the first time, i.e. the one you had to, I'm going to blow this up a little bit so I can see a little bit better. Thought my reading glasses would do the trick, but I guess I got my screen at 80%, which is not the right answer to read these little comments. All right. 57 here. Okay, cool. I'll be 47 before too long. Thea says, just out of curiosity, how old were you when you got married the first time, i.e. the one you had to end up paying child support for? Sounds like you were fairly young at the time. So it was, I gotta be, I'm going to be honest with you, be direct with you. My first sexual experiences were at age 14, 15 years old. And I knew that was wrong, but I also knew that like all my friends were doing these things and, talking about how great it was and what a nerd you were and what a loser you were if you didn't, do this stuff with your girlfriend. And so, I had some sexual experiences early on, and when that relationship ended, like that was painful. Like I'm sure in some way, shape, or form, like I was, spiritually and physically bonded with this girl even at age 14 or 15. So that was like having my heart ripped out, and I really was hard on myself because I felt like, hey Ryan, you did this to yourself. You knew you were doing something wrong, and so here you go. Here's the wages of sin, bro. But that was difficult, and I'll say that it was difficult for me to, stop, seeking sex or sexual experiences, as much as I felt a, religious guilt, for lack of a better word, feeling some guilt before God for, doing these things outside of marriage. I would go through long periods of time when I was abstaining and really trying to, stay true to my values. And there were other times when, I got caught up in my flesh. And so anyway, I was only 21 when I had 21 when I had my first daughter, and I was engaged to the girl. She had a dress and a nice ring, and we had a wedding planned and all of that stuff. I loved her, but, I think her parents, maybe with some wisdom, I don't know, maybe with some wisdom, realized that I didn't necessarily have a career track. I didn't necessarily have a, big bank account or anything that could, prove that I was qualified to care for their daughter. But I did love her. And it was very painful for a number of years, feeling like there was a family that I wasn't part of. By the way, just out of curiosity, how old were you when you married the first time, i.e. the one? Yeah, so just to clarify, I was 21 when I had my first daughter. So, was that smart? Probably not. And I definitely got to see some negative results from that. So the next time I married, or the first time that I actually married, and I thought I was making a smart decision, is I was about 27 years old. A lot of people in the Army, I really have an issue with this. Give me a second. A lot of people, when they join the Army, they realize, there's certain benefits to getting married. I don't really like living in the barracks, like in these drab rooms with a roommate. I don't really like being, bothered by officers and NCOs in the barracks, like at any time, day or night, when they come by and knock on the door and, ask for something. So if you get married in the military, you will generally either get assigned a house or you'll get some sort of living allowance so that you can live outside of the barracks. You'll also get some food allowance, to support your sustenance for your family. And, that can be an upgrade from living in the barracks and eating in the dining facility. So a lot of people get married impulsively, at age 20, 21, 22. And that's at least a factor is that they see there's a lot of fringe benefits to being married, So, I thought I was smart that I had avoided that. And so I got I ended up getting married at 27, and it did not have anything to do with financial reasons. Really, it had to do with the fact that I thought I had a smart match. I wanted to enjoy intimacy with somebody, and I felt like marriage was a God honoring place for that and way to do that. And so I really had the best of intentions. This young lady had a daughter that was about 7 or 8 years old at the time, and I spent time with her too. And you know, anyway, so I did not know that. I did not know that woman for a long time. I probably only knew her a month before we chose to get married. But the whole thing was over and done with within 3 or 4 months. And I will say I wasn't really. I won't say that I was wounded by that. Like, it happened. It came and went so fast that I don't think I was wounded by that too much. But the daughter that I had when I was 21, that's the one that I was paying child support for and not really able to have a relationship with because unfortunately the mother kind of fought me tooth and nail when it came to seeing my daughter. I paid child support. I sent cards and gifts. I sent cards and gifts even for this woman did marry somebody within a year, guy that was older. I would send cards and gifts for her other kids. Just hoping that somehow this woman would trust me and respect me somehow. And this was a big reason why I joined the Army is I didn't really have a career track. I didn't really want to go into debt for college, and I thought I've got to do something to change my life so that I have something to offer my daughter in the future. But it was it was tough. Getting kind of personal now, but honest to God, for decades, I would have dreams. I'd have dreams that this woman, who was really kind of cold and uncaring and harsh with me, suddenly like approved of me and wanted to get back together with me. And I wasn't consciously like thinking of her on a daily basis, but I'd say once or twice a year, I'd have this like wonderful dream of like how my family was restored and I was with this young lady again, and not the case. So anyhow, I know there's lots of scriptural reasons why there might be benefits to being single. Maybe that's just the path for some people, but I just think of all people, like I'm really somebody that wanted marriage and wanted a family. As you can imagine, after being on the line for child support for 18 years, like I'm a little scared of being in that situation again. It does put sort of a damper on your lifestyle, especially when you don't really have a relationship with the child. It's kind of painful to be paying fees for stuff that you can't enjoy in any way, shape, or form. So, anyway, I hope that's all an interesting story. I'm going to keep reading some comments here. I will continue praying for your situation, singleness. Sorry to hear about the situation you experienced with the divorce with the school teacher. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's well documented that there's a higher rate of divorce if the woman either out-earns you, especially by multiple amounts, or more educated, being a PhD or multiple degrees. Yeah, I understand that. I definitely understand that. I'm going to be honest here. I wasted too much time on women who weren't worth my notice. Our heart is deceitful. Yeah, I understand. I thought I kind of found a winner with this girl here recently, but it doesn't seem like the best judgment to marry a guy from Jamaica that's 6 years younger than you. I mean, most people kind of embrace the idea that women mature faster than men. So I'm not sure that this 24-year-old Jamaican drug dealer is really going to be the type of husband, be the type of leader, be the type of partner that she deserves. But what can I do? What can I do except, try to give advice in an objective way and try to pray that I'm not, just trying to be greedy and get her for myself. Phone number for SDAs that want to, maybe they want to make fun of me, tell me I got what I deserved. Maybe they want to tell me about the Sabbath or the spirit of prophecy or, Levitical food laws or whatever. Feel free to call it 910-445-0062. Getting back to business for a moment, I was watching a video from Advent Defense League earlier, and it was really kind of funny. I think the title of the video is "It Got Heated," and so they have somebody on the show. It seems like kind of a two-on-one format at the time. You've got Edwin Cotto and Dr. Jason, I want to say Dr. Jason Thomas, if I remember correctly, on there. And you've got a, run-of-the-mill Christian on there trying to discuss some issues with them. And it's really kind of comical, the way that they try to sort of railroad and, control the narrative and, refuse to go to scriptures that the guy is trying to invoke. And then one that makes me laugh a lot is I'd have to look up the passage. Maybe somebody can do it for me. But give me a second here. You know what? Let me just look it up real quick. Your screen is not frozen. I'm just looking something. One of these verses that Advent Defense League invoked from 2 Corinthians 3:2 just makes me laugh because SDAs have gotten themselves in sort of a trap with that before. This is from 2 Corinthians 3 verse 2. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to read the whole chapter, the whole passage. We could always look at that later, but this particular part, using the ESV here, 2 Corinthians 3:2, you yourselves are our letter of recommendation, written on our hearts to be known and read by all. The King James Version says, ye, that's Y-E, ye are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men. And, SDAs will try to use this as a proof text that the that the law is written in our hearts. I think that might be alluded to somehow in the following verse. But as soon as I ask them who ye is, they can't function anymore, because this is not saying that the law is written in our hearts. This is a personal letter where it's being said that this people group, this church, this body of believers is written in, I want to say it's Paul's heart. So it's just, I don't know, one of those things that I think is kind of corny when SDAs try to find proof texts that don't really work. I'm going to be honest. Okay, whoops. On a more controversial question, do you think that your parents' divorce and seeing everything your mother went through affect your view on marriage? Like, has it made you more careful or cautious? I'd like to say that it made me more careful or cautious. It's probably made me more careful or cautious. It's wish I could think of how to answer that in a more meaningful way, but the way that my mother and father related to each other, like, I just refuse to repeat it. Being a soldier, being a prison guard, I'm not shy. I'm not timid. I've also, worked in marketing and sales a little bit. So I'm not afraid to advocate for things that I want. I'm not afraid to have a debate. I have a relatively strong will, but, I refuse to call a woman names or to threaten a woman, whether it's, physically, spiritually, legally. Like, I refuse to behave that way. That's not the that's not the fruit of the Spirit that I want to eat. You know, if I'm just going to put it that way, I just I I don't want to maintain a relationship by force, coercion, or um, anything like that. So hope that means something to you somehow, Thea. Again, I appreciate all the comments, all the people visiting, all the people that might watch this next time, or watch it after the live time has expired. If any SDAs feel like calling, they're welcome to call at 910-445-0062. Just going to try to fact check myself because I can't be necessarily trusted to remember phone numbers from memory. It's 910-445-0062. So I've been asking myself, honestly, guys, whether, this should become more of a vlog about my personal life, my personal life as a Christian, of course. If I should continue to engage with SDAs or try to engage with SDAs, because, generally when you figure out something that you don't like and that doesn't work for you, you generally leave. Like, let's say you go to a car dealership and you figure out, man, none of these cars work properly and these salesmen are really jerks. Like, you generally just leave and you go somewhere where you're appreciated, where you're more comfortable, where you're more fulfilled, whatever your needs are. And so, I'm struggling with the idea, why do I volunteer to fight these demons? And I'm using that just as a figure of speech. But why do I feel driven to, like, tear this thing apart? And I think the answer is that I had a wrong view of God, and I had a wrong view of Christ. And I had, even when I got away from the SDA church as a young adult, like, whenever anything went wrong, I mean, I could lose my car keys, for example, and I would literally think, like, God is mad at me, like I did something to upset God, and so he's, trying to correct me or punish me. I kind of, I don't know. I had a vision of God that was somewhat wrathful, and that, that did engage in retribution. Um, SDAs might like to argue that I shouldn't have gotten that view from the SDA church, but I did. So anyhow, it wasn't until I was like 24, 25 years old, and I always believed in God. But I even wrote my daughter saying, I don't know if I ever mailed that particular letter or not, but I wrote my daughter, like, saying, I didn't really understand. I had this pocket Bible New Testament thing, and I didn't really understand, like, why do people, like, make such a big deal about Jesus? Like, if we're supposed to, worship God and fear God, like, what's the big deal about Jesus? Like, that's where Seventh-day Adventism left me, is, Jesus is kind of a unnecessary figure. Like, he's a good role model, but really it's all on me. I got to earn the Letterman's jacket myself. And so Jesus was just kind of like an embarrassing athlete, because he did everything right, and I couldn't. So anyhow, I went to a Baptist church, or at least a Baptist affiliated church in Texas when I was serving in the Army. I tried a couple of different churches because I didn't know what I was doing. Went to Pentecostal churches, and, not to offend anybody, but, like, I felt really uncomfortable there. Like, I didn't understand the utility of the speaking in tongues. Like, it seemed kind of forced to me, seemed kind of scary, seemed kind of spooky, seemed like disorderly. And I went to this Baptist church ultimately, and I must have heard the gospel presented in some way that I'd never heard before, because I just remember feeling like so much joy and so much love when I found out that it sounds silly. Like I guess I should have known that Christ died, having been at SDA, but you know, finding out that Christ died for me to pay for my sins, my failures, my weaknesses. I don't know. Somehow it just reached me in some new way that totally changed my life and perspective on God. God was only a fearful thing to me, not a loving thing prior to that. Let's see here. Now I have a wonderful woman who is sitting next to me watching AFS. Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. Sorry, I was meant to ask, when you were 14, 15, were you an SDA or not religious? Were your parents aware of what you were doing, or you keep your situation discreet from them? It was about age 13, 14 when my parents divorced. And so there was a lot of turbulence, right? With me going to my mom's house and going to my stepdad's house. Going to my mom's house, going to my dad's house, back and forth, and, I will say that, my father fully understood that I was like hanging out with this girl all the freaking time, like all the time. So I'm sure he had some suspicions, and I don't really think we talked about it. I think that maybe he was preoccupied with restarting his life without my mother. Maybe he was preoccupied with dating or rebuilding his life so that he could start dating again. But I definitely didn't have. It was about the same time. I think I started dealing with this girl, as my parents started going through their divorce. It was a real turbulent time when they were more concerned with fighting each other and dealing with attorneys and, selling real estate and hating on each other and, weren't necessarily paying a lot of attention to what I was doing. Let's see. Before I go, thanks for your honesty in this live stream, and I will continue remembering you in prayer. Continue fighting the good fight against the forces of darkness. Ephesians 6:12. Yeah, I appreciate that, Thea. Thank you. I'm trying to track the time here. Oh, okay, it's coming up on 9 p.m. So we're gonna wrap up soon. I know this is a little different, but I appreciate everybody stopping by. Please really do give me your vote or give me some feedback in the comments about should I go in a different direction with the show? Should I do the show at a different time of day? Whatever it might be, let me know. Phone number next Saturday at 8 p.m. that SDAs and anybody else is welcome to give a ring is 910-445-0062. All right, we got about a minute left, so I'm just going to say God bless everybody. Yeah, that's short and sweet. I'll just say God bless everybody, and please keep me in prayer too. Thank you. Thanks, Random. It says blessings on your outreach. Yep. You know what? I'm stalling for a minute because I'm trying to hit the hour mark. I don't know if that means something, but I feel like I read something about something needing to be a minimum of an hour to reach some sort of algorithm goal. I don't know. We shall see. But all right. Close enough. Take care.